One thing that happens with these goggles over time, and don't worry because it is going to happen, this plate here is metal and it will fatigue and just get a random dent in. It reminds me of the old P4 Phantom batteries where they used to get a crack in them, and this one, it's just got too much tension on it and eventually it gets a little ding there. There is so much to charge here. So I've got my charging hub here for the 3 batteries. Looks like it only does 1 battery at a time rather than all 3 at the same time. And we've got the goggles battery. Don't use this. Get one of these, which is an XT60 to a barrel connector, and then you can use a big 4S LiPo. You'll get much longer use out of your goggles. And then the controller up there. This is taking ages with the batteries individually charging. The controller is fully charged. The battery for the goggles looks like it's almost charged, but look, it has gone dark. Okay, so in the hobby world, anytime we are messing with software, we take the props off so that if anything goes wrong, then they can't spool up and injure you. Now, with this being DJI, I'm sure they've thought of that, but it's always a good practice to do so. So to activate it, I've got the goggles here, and we've got the on-the-go adapter that comes in the package, and then I'm using the USB-C cable. This will have to go into my phone, and then we can only activate it using the DJI Fly app. Some people suggested that you can use the FPV series app on the computer to activate it, but you can't. It just recognizes that in the FPV Cadex Vista and Air Unit mode. So we'll have to go onto the app. Okay, so here I am on my phone, screen recording. To turn the drone on, it is a short and long press of the button. It'll make a funny noise. The way that it does that is it sends a frequency from the motors through to the frame, a bit like a record player, if you didn't know that. Okay, so I'm now going to plug in the barrel connector on here. This will start up, and it should say in here that it needs activating. We've got picture from the drone. There you go. It says that it needs activating in the Fly app. So let's do that. Okay, this is the DJI Fly app. And let's plug it into the phone. See if it picks anything up. Yeah, okay. Always allow. Agree, blah, blah, blah. Okay, we need to log in. Next. Activate. Binding. Man, I tell you what, they make this look easier, don't they, on like review videos and stuff. Restart aircraft to complete activation. Restarting will take around 30 seconds. Yes, very good. Activation successful. Done. DJI Care refresh. That's funny. It's asking me, do I want DJI Care refresh before I've done anything? I'm going to press the X. Confirm. Oh, that's not English, is it? Oh, now it's gone back to English. Excellent. Well, there's a firmware update. It's unable to take off. Install. So far, after about 5 minutes, it's done 1%. And it says it's going at half a meg. Now, to be fair, I am nowhere near the Wi-Fi. It's just gone to 0 kilobytes. Maybe I'll need to take it closer to the Wi-Fi. Right, I'm in the same room as the Wi-Fi. Still going pretty slow, half a megasecond. Nearly a megasecond. Oh, it's gone up to 2%. Excellent. Well, let's just see how long this takes. Blimey. Oh, 99%. Firmware installed. That's how long it took. Go fly. Oh, look at that. That's the FPV feed out to the phone. Okay, so I've done all of the firmware updates on this guy. It took 1 hour and 6 minutes in total, which is a little bit excessive, especially if you've come home from work expecting to fly this thing before it's dark, having never set it up before. That's an hour out of your day already. One thing that I wasn't able to capture was the battery firmware update. So when I turned the quadcopter back on and the goggles, it said that there was a firmware mismatch between the quadcopter's battery. That took about 5 minutes to do. But anyways, we're looking through the goggles here. I've just got a camera pointed through them, so quality is not that great, but it's very difficult to show this otherwise. It'd be nice if we had HDMI out, wouldn't it? So if I press down on the button there, we've got the status of the drone, and we don't have any GPS because I'm indoors. Then if I move down here, we've got the album, so you can watch back your footage. Then we've got the transmission settings. We have got this first option here. It's interesting straight away, isn't it? Broadcasting off. All that does, as far as I'm aware, is allow other V2 goggles that can connect to the drone to see what your FPV drone is seeing. It's like audience mode, but for the FPV drone. And if you don't have that on, then I guess it's not broadcasting that in audience mode. Aspect ratio. Now, this is an interesting one. We've got 16:9, and then we've got 4:3. And you'll notice that we have gained vertical field of view. You can almost see the flat screen TV there, the bottom of it anyways. What we can do with this is we can actually fly 4:3 mode and get that extra field of view, but the camera of the DJI quadcopter will record 16:9 still. So I quite like that you can do that. Another thing that we can do, and a lot of people have complained about, is the props that are in shot. So we can keep this full 4:3 shot and then have it crop the props out of shot, but I'll show you how to do that later. So my preference here would be to fly in 4:3 mode. Now, if we go down focus mode, I like to leave focus mode off. I find it distracting. You're not going to be flying in any bandos with this guy anyways, and if you go on to the high quality setting, I don't think you need focus mode anyways, so I'm going to leave that off. But essentially focus mode, same as with the air units and vistas, you get 2 lines of lower bit rate at the side, and then it gives you sort of a window in the middle of a higher bit rate, and you can see where you're going, but it doesn't look very pretty, I don't think. So we've got the channel mode here, which is set to auto, but if you go to manual, you can see that we have got the frequency here now. So you can either do 5.8 or 2.4, and it will lock to that. So here's a reason why you might want to do that. You see, 2.4 gigahertz has much better penetration and range than 5.8 gigahertz. So if you're wanting to do a really long range flight, and you might be limited, say, in the EU, if you lock it to 2.4 gigahertz, you've got 100 milliwatt in the EU, whereas, you know, you would have, say, 25 milliwatt in 5.8, which will give you less range. So that's something to try if you don't want to unlock your drone and, you know, potentially break the laws. If you want to get more range out of it, then you will get a higher output on 100 milliwatts on 2.4. But if you don't do that, it seems that once it's chosen the selected band, which is usually 5.8 gigahertz, because you get more bandwidth with 5.8 gigahertz, then it doesn't seem to change after that, and that's why people are getting short range. So I'm going to keep this on auto, but, you know, if you want to play around with that, you will get more range with 100 milliwatt of 2.4 than you would 25 milliwatt of 5.8 gigahertz. So if we come back here, we've got some channels that we can select between as well, but I'm going to leave everything on auto. Okay, so if I scoot across here and select audience mode, this is where you could look at other people flying the DJI FPV drone, but I don't know anyone else that has bought one, so I'm not going to be able to do that anyways. But that is all of those settings there. So if I now press back and go down, we have got settings here. So if we go into safety, We've got a lot of stuff here. So we have got the altitude limit at 500 meters, and you can't go any higher than that anyways. In most countries, the limit is 120 meters. So if we come down here, we've got flight distance, there's no limit on that one. And we've got the return to home altitude, which is 100 meters. No need to change that really, unless you know that you've got objects above you, then you could change that. Update the home point. So I guess while you are flying, you can press that and it'll update the home point to where you are. So obstacle slowing. So yeah, as with the Mavics and also the Phantoms, the object avoidance will not let you fly into the object. This one just slows you down. So I'm not sure if that's helpful, but there you go, it's got it. Compass calibration. This is important to do anytime you change area, and this is because depending on the area that you are in, you will be getting what is called magnetic interference. So the quadcopter always has to know where north is. And that is because when it's hovering, much like the GPS in your car when you are stationary, it does not know which way you are pointing. So if it's got a compass to say that way is north, then it knows where it is and which direction that it is facing. But if you have got something that is skewing that compass heading, like, I don't know, a car, or just, general things in the area that you live in, and it's calibrated wrong, then it might not fly very well. DJI is usually pretty good these days at, having great compass settings, but I would always recommend doing that when you change locations. So we've got the IMU calibration as well, and you make sure that you want to do that too. Now this is an interesting one, Find My Drone. Not really sure it's that useful. It's just gonna play back the last flight that you did, but it doesn't have like any GPS information on it or anything like that. So you could do exactly the same thing by going into your photo album, I guess. Okay, so we've got advanced safety features here. And we've got AirSense, and what that is, it's got a built-in ADS-B receiver. So aircraft, full-size aircraft that have got an ADS-B transmitter, when they come into your vicinity, it will warn you. And then we've got emergency propeller stop. Does what it says on the tin. I'm not too fond of this method, because if you enable it, then if you are doing a maneuver that requires all of the six down and inwards or outwards, then the thing will disarm in the air. But one of the problems that I have with this model is how difficult it is to disarm it. You can double tap one of the buttons when in manual mode to quickly arm and disarm it. That only works in manual mode. I would love to have seen a dedicated kill switch and arm switch. So if I press back on there and back again, so that's all of those settings. Let's go into control. So this is a remote controller, and this is button customization, and this is where you have to turn on acro mode, because when you go into manual mode on the transmitter, it does nothing out of the box. I mean, DJI really doesn't want you to do manual mode, I don't think. So if we come down here, you see where it says manual mode, you have to select that. But then there's another thing you need to do as well. So yeah, you can customize some of these other buttons as well, but I didn't touch those. If we go back to the top, and this is quite tricky to get at, this one, stick mode, and then enter. Now don't be confused by it saying mode 1. I fly mode 1, and there are other people out there fly mode 3. Let me just go over one more time to gain an expo. You see down there where it says limit M mode, you have to turn that off, and then you've got full acro. So it just seems like there's so much getting in the way when you want to fly manual mode. If you take off in sport mode, you have to put the sticks in a certain situation before it'll go into acro mode, and then the thing's going to be very fragile in acro mode. So it's an unusual thing that they have done there, in my opinion. And then last one is RC stick calibration, which you want to make sure that you do, but it kind of speaks for itself, that one. Okay, so LED settings. So you can change various LED settings. I'm not too fussed about LEDs myself. It's not that important. Gimbal and pitch speed, again, you know, you've got normal, fast and slow. I don't really use the gimbal pitch speed with this one. You're flying forward usually, and you're using your own pitch to, you know, pitch the model down. So gimbal calibration speaks for itself. I'm not going to go through that. Coordinated turns in sport mode. This is a really unusual feature. I think that Mavic Air did it. And when you are moving forward and put yaw in, or rudder, then it coordinates the roll or aileron at the same time. So you can basically just fly with the yaw and the pitch if you want to. It teaches bad habits when flying though. I'm going to try it though, why not? Units, obviously, you know, you've got your options there. Camera. So if we go into camera, we have got camera preferences, and this is where you can set everything to manual. Now I'm going to keep it on auto, but you know, some of the camera guys will want to mess around with that. The only problem is, if you're in the air and you have like a changing of the lighting conditions, it will stay as it is. So, you know, if you don't know what you're doing with that, it's best to stick to auto. So transmission quality, this is where I have it on high quality. You get a latency of about 39 to 35 milliseconds, which is plenty, especially for a freestyle model like this. The low latency goes to about 23 to 26 milliseconds. It is really the blink of an eye to tell the difference. With high quality, I tend to find you don't need focus mode either. So video quality. Now this is something I found interesting, because the lowest FPS you can select at the moment is 50 FPS, and that's not very cinematic, is there? There's no 30 FPS or 24 FPS. I think that's probably something that I would expect there. So we've got the options of MP4 and MAV as the file type. Grid lines, just annoying. I have those off. Maybe some people like it. Center point, sometimes people use this for racing. It just puts a cross in the middle of the screen, but again, nah, not my sort of thing, that. So this is kind of like, looks like a hidden menu, but it's just one underneath the format the SD card, and it's the advanced camera settings. I think a lot of people have missed this in their reviews, you know. So record with both the goggles, or, you know, aircraft, you can do either or. Auto record on takeoff, so when you arm it, it automatically starts recording. EIS, that's the electronic image stabilization. If you turn that off, then, you know, you haven't got what they're calling rock steady. Wonder where they've got that from. Real steady? Rock steady? Nah, can't be. It's got to be a coincidence. Okay, so then we have got distortion correction. Now this is where it gets interesting. So you can see that we can do aircraft and goggles, aircraft only, goggles only. So we'd want to do aircraft only. Now you can't see what that has done because I've changed it to 4x3 mode. But what I can actually do, let's just go back and find that other camera option. So if I go back into transmission and turn aspect ratio to 16:9, what you will see is it's cropped the props out of shot. Let's go back to settings, camera, then advanced settings. So you can see there, you'll see the difference to what it does. So we can do aircraft only. The aircraft only crops it out, but we're seeing the props. Can you just see the props in shot there? But if it was to record, then it would record like that. And then goggles and aircraft, it records both of them like that. Aircraft only, if we want the props out of shot, then we can still see our full FPV field of view, because, you know, field of view is currency when flying these sort of things. Any extra field of view you can get, the better. So
Then we've got goggles only. I don't know why you'd want that. And then off. That's actually where it is out of the box, which is why a lot of the reviews have the props and shots. But you can actually just, you know, if we do both, that does get rid of the props. It gets rid of a lot of the field of view actually though. So, you know, you have to make sure that you are choosing the right application for that. I'm going to actually, in my test, have everything off, but the way that I would have it is to just have the aircraft recording, and so you get the props out of shot on your recording, and then on your goggles you can, you know, you can, if you need to, you've got that full view. Now sometimes it's best to have the full view of everything and then crop it in an editor, but in this case, if it is recording 4K 60, then you might want 4K 60 with the props out of shot, whereas you'd have to crop in a little bit. So, you know, it's kind of good for that. I just don't know why they didn't design the quadcopter to have the props out of shot all of the time. That's what we do in the FPV hobby side of it. We've got image roll correction. So it just seems to be like more distortion that it's getting rid of, because I'm still getting roll, so it's not like roll correction of the quadcopter. It just gets rid of more field of view. Video format, it was set to H.265, but I've selected H.264. So color, you've got natural and then Cinelog, D-Cinelog, I think that was saying. And yeah, I'm just going to go for natural, but yes, Cinelog, it's so that you can like color grade it and stuff like that. Anti-flicker I've got set to auto. That's so like the light frequency here is 50 Hertz, and in America it's 60 Hertz, and hopefully it's not flickering there. I think it is flickering a little bit. That could be just because I'm pointing the camera down the screen. So we've got audio recording. Now, I think a lot of people have missed this as well. If you put your headphones out of this, then you get live audio, and that's something that hobbyists wanted from the Air unit and the Vista. You actually get that, and it also records the audio as well to the goggles. So we've got anything else? So we've got reset camera parameters. That is everything in there, folks. So I did do a flight in manual mode with this guy, which I'm going to leave you with. I just wanted to test it out so it's not too interesting, and I want to do a proper video where I fly it and tell you what I think about it. But until then, I'm going to leave you with the footage from this camera and see what you think about it.